America.
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 Unmuted.
America.
Unmuted.
The American Unmuted Podcast.
What's your background and what was really your first introduction to the criminal justice system?
Me.
Yeah.
My background is more or less like I grew up in New York, in Yonkers, New York. Before coming down here to Tennessee, I don't have a hard knock life story that started up. I think my mom did the best that she could, and she did really well with me and my little brother. I think it was just environment wasn't the best, but at the same time, I think I was a pretty good kid coming up.
So this is Yonkers in like the what time?
I'm an '80s baby, born January 4th, 1980. So
Okay.
I'm 42 now. Born in the '80s. Is New York in the '80s it wasn't all that. There was a lot going on around that time frame. Like I said, Yonkers was not the worst place to be, but the area of Yonkers that I was in was not the best. Okay.
Yeah, what area were y'all in? What was it like while you were growing up there?
Yeah. There was crime. I mean, it wasn't like I was, as a kid coming up, my mom tried to, she tried not to expose me to too much, but being in New York, there's a lot that you are going to be exposed to as a child. It's not like being down here. There's a lot of stuff that's in your face. I remember going to schools. I remember crack vials. I remember what crack vials looked like back when they had crack in vials. And I remember vials all over the streets. I remember the school I went to, the playground had crack vials on the playground, syringes on the playground, condoms on the playground. You know what I'm saying?
At your middle school?
At my school, yeah, because we used to kids out and we used to pick them up with sticks and throw them on the little girls. Oh yeah, that was crazy.
Oh, God,
the thing about that is the fact that we had access to that was ridiculous now that I think about that. But yeah, that's how it was. Now, that's not to say that there was a lot. It's just a lot more than what you would experience in Tennessee.
And did you see any of those things while you were on the playground in middle school? Like you saw the vials and the condoms, but were those things going on?
Yeah, during school hours, a lot of this stuff was at night. So when you come to school, that's what you're seeing, the remnants of what the night brought. There was a time my playground was shut down for a whole year because there was a prostitute had got killed out there. And I remember when we was going to school that all the ambulances out there and all that. And I remember you seen blood stains. And I remember we couldn't go out there for about the whole till the next year. And it was taped off and all that. And I remember seeing that.
And how old were you when that was going on?
I was in grammar school, so I was probably 9 or 10, 9-ish.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah, so I remember that. I remember seeing it. Occasionally you heard gunshots. It wasn't like it was like living in it's certain parts of New York where you're going to see stuff like that all over, like all the time in here. But you watch the news also.
Yeah.
I think New York is it's more of an aggressive environment. It's fast paced. And for
especially
children,
back in the 80s.
Exactly. And for children coming up in that, you know what I'm saying? Like I said, it depends on your environment because there's other parts of New York or even where I was from in Yonkers where you could have came up at that time and it wasn't so bad. And then there's, a lot of me coming up was a lot of fighting. I remember fighting all the time. There's a lot. It was aggressive. So we're coming up as a kid. I fought a lot. A lot of kids
fighting with other kids or
other kids.
Who were you
it was
fighting
always
at that time?
Yeah. That was a big thing to fight. To if you were known as a good fighter, that was a popular thing coming up out there where I was coming from. So you had to be. All the kids were really aggressive. Even the little girls were aggressive. So fighting was a big thing, and I that was one of my main things, and that was probably one of my main initial problems was fighting. I had a bad temper, and in my mind, I thought to fight and to be tough meant to overcome things. Being a child,
physically and literally fight.
Yeah, because I was a fearful kid. I wouldn't admit that back then, but I was fearful. There was times when I was scared. I used to be scared to fight, but I liked to fight because when I did fight and I won, I liked the outcome and I liked the praise. But I was a little fearful, and New York was really aggressive, and I was a quiet kid, and so that was my thing. Like I went to school, I was really good, smart, really smart, man. Had honors classes, used to do real good, man. But my behavior, as far as being aggressive and as far as having a temper, used to fight all the time, and I guess part of being quiet and not having a lot of friends that early, that's part of what pushed that also. But that was a big thing, and that was the first initial things with me going on with my behavior was fighting. And as I got older, it went more and more. There was a lot. The fights became more. You started seeing if weapons started becoming involved. Kids that I grew up with before I left, because we wanted moving down here to Tennessee when I was like 14, getting ready to be 15. That was the end of 14. At that age, around that time right there, kids that when I got to be about 13, 14, those kids that I've grown up with, a lot of their behavior, like I was fighting, but my mom, I did not disrespect my mother. My mother was not nobody to play with. So, but outside the house, I was yelling crazy, wild, fighting and stuff. But I didn't do a lot of criminal activity at that age. But a lot of the kids started getting to that. 13, 14, a lot of my age back kids, they started getting into robberies. That was happening around my area. Kids that I grew up with were robbing now. And
that's why you were still living in Yonkers?
That was while I was still living in Yonkers. And that's what I was getting exposed to. And up until right before we moved down here. And then I guess once we came down here to Tennessee, it was then you got me in Tennessee. And my behavior, I think for me, and this is my interpretation of it, of course, my interpretation is I feel like when I don't think I was a bad kid, but I think my attitude coming from New York, the aggressive attitude, New York, we didn't grow up having to say yes, sir, no, sir, yes, ma'am, no, ma'am, even though now I feel like that's a good thing. Coming up, that wasn't something that we practiced in New York. And so when you go to school at 14 years old, I think my personality came off aggressive when I wasn't trying to be aggressive, because I actually was, like I said, I was pretty good in school. And even when I moved down here, my state scores, like I was high enough to be in honors English and honors math. You know what I'm saying?
America.
Unmuted.
America.
Unmuted.
The American Unmuted Podcast.